Hello everyone, what's up? Welcome to GMA24 Update News Channel. Hope you will enjoy our news video. Before we begins, hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Here is the news title: Rachel Reeves' trick downplays. 200bn Blackhole as UK crashes into mire of debt. Exclusive. Bob Liddon accused the financial establishment of a conjuring trick that deceives the public into believing we have more headroom for borrowing than we actually do. Chancellor Rachel Reeves is deliberately downplaying the true scale of the UK's debt, masking a 200bn black hole to justify further borrowing, according to banking expert Bob Liddon. Mr. Liddon accused the so-called blob, a term he uses to describe the Treasury, the Bank of England, the Office for National Statistics, the Office for Budget Responsibility, and Downing Street, of misleading the public, with Ms. Reeves at the heart of the strategy. The founder of Liddon Consulting Services told Express.co.uk. The most egregious example is their routine presentation of the Bank of England's huge losses as an asset that can be deducted from the national debt. It's a conjuring trick that deceives the public into believing we have more headroom for borrowing than we actually do. At the heart of the issue is public sector net debt, calculated by the Office for National Statistics, ONS, to be $2.62 trillion as of December 2024. However, this figure is significantly lower than the true scale of the nation's obligations, claims Mr. Liddon. He explained, "The biggest step down is the 200bn black hole between public sector net debt and public sector net debt less Bank of England, and it is in itself implausible. 95 of it is a loss, not an asset. The remainder is unexplained. Instead of there being a deduction, there should be an addition for the Bank of England." This accounting sleight of hand has enabled the government, under Ms. Reeves's economic leadership, to promote the concept of borrowing for investment, said Mr. Liddon, as a way of masking the true cost of projects, such as the revival of the defunct Robin Hood Airport near Doncaster. The scheme is estimated to cost roughly $138 million, with funding via a $60.6 million council loan and a $44.6 million rent deferral loan, scheduled for spring 2026. Such investments are counted as public assets, which are then offset against the debt incurred to finance them. Mr. Liddon warned, "The public is being gaslit. The blob socializes a narrative that the nation's finances are managed prudently and by professionals, when in fact the country is being driven deeper into the mire of debt. The implications are far-reaching," Mr. Liddon suggested, with the government's ability to continue borrowing dependent on international confidence in the UK's fiscal health, confidence which could be severely undermined if the true scale of the nation's liabilities were laid bare. Mr. Liddon pointed to the 100bn still owing under New Labour's Private Finance Initiative, PFI, debts of public financial and non-financial corporations, and the underreported liabilities of local governments as figures that should be included in a realistic assessment of the national debt. The blob's perceived abandonment of the general government gross debt, GGGD metric, previously mandated under the Maastricht Treaty, is another cause for concern, Mr. Liddon pointed out. The Office for National Statistics, ONS, announced in December 2024 that it would discontinue the publication of the UK Government Debt and Deficit Statistical Bulletin, which included the General Government Gross Debt, GGGD metric. The final release is scheduled for April 30, 2025. Subsequently, the ONS will integrate these data into the Public Sector Finances UK Bulletin, starting from June 2025. GGGD provided a more comprehensive view of the nation's liabilities, including central and local government debt, and its omission, Mr. Liddon claimed, is a convenient way to obscure the true scale of borrowing. As fiscal policy and national debt management remain hotly contested, Ms. Reeves has pledged not to borrow, to fund day-to-day spending, and to get debt falling as a share of national income by the end of this parliament. However, higher borrowing costs have put pressure on government finances, leading to warnings that she may face difficult decisions to meet her self-imposed financial rules. with UK government borrowing jumping to 17.8 bn last month. The Chief Secretary to the Treasury, Darren Jones, insisted, "Economic stability is vital for our #1 mission of delivering growth. That's why our fiscal rules are non-negotiable, and why we will have an iron grip on the public finances." Ms. Reeves is also facing significant pressure due to rising government borrowing costs, particularly the increase in 10-year gilt yields, elevating the cost of servicing national debt and potentially straining public finances and limiting fiscal flexibility. Trick downplays 200bn Blackhole as UK crashes into mire of debt. Introduction. Chancellor Rachel Reeves has come under scrutiny for allegedly downplaying the extent of the UK's financial crisis, concealing a massive 200 billion black hole in public finances. Banking expert Bob Liddon has accused the financial establishment, or the blob, of manipulating figures to present a misleadingly optimistic view of national debt. This analysis delves into the core issues surrounding the UK's economic situation, examining the implications of these financial maneuvers and the potential consequences for future fiscal policy. The hidden debt crisis. The UK's official public sector net debt, reported at £262 trillion as of December 2024, does not fully reflect the nation's true financial liabilities. A key concern is the accounting approach used by the government and financial institutions. Liddon argues that certain losses, particularly those linked to the Bank of England, should not be offset against national debt, but rather added to it. The biggest discrepancy arises from the 200 billion gap between the reported public sector net debt and public sector net debt less Bank of England. Within this sum, at least $95 billion is attributed to Bank of England losses, which should be classified as liabilities rather than assets. The remaining $105 billion lacks transparency, raising concerns over financial misrepresentation. Accounting. Maneuvers. A conjuring trick? Liddon accuses the Treasury, Bank of England, Office for National Statistics, ONS, and the Office for Budget Responsibility, OBR, of engaging in an accounting sleight of hand. By presenting Bank of England losses as assets, the government artificially reduces the national debt figure, creating the illusion of greater headroom for borrowing. This practice has enabled the government to justify increased borrowing under the guise of borrowing for investment. Projects such as the revival of Robin Hood Airport, estimated to cost $138 million, illustrate this approach. While the government presents such projects as strategic investments, the true cost of financing them, through a combination of council loans and deferred payments, places additional pressure on public finances. The role of public finance initiatives. PFI. Another key factor contributing to hidden debt is the legacy of the Private Finance Initiative, PFI. Introduced under New Labour, PFI allowed the government to fund infrastructure projects through private sector investment, spreading costs over decades. However, this approach has left the UK with $100 billion in ongoing liabilities. While PFI debt does not always appear directly in public sector net debt figures, it represents a substantial long-term obligation. Critics argue that failing to incorporate PFI liabilities into national debt assessments obscures the true scale of the UK's financial commitments. The abandonment of the general government. Gross debt, GGGD, metric. Historically, the UK adhered to the general government gross debt, GGGD metric under the Maastricht Treaty. This measure provided a comprehensive view of national debt, incorporating both central and local government obligations. However, the ONS announced in December 2024 that it would discontinue publishing the UK Government Debt and Deficit Statistical Bulletin, effectively sidelining the GGGD metric. From June 2025, debt figures will be reported exclusively within the Public Sector Finances Bulletin. Liddon contends that this change is a deliberate attempt to obscure the full extent of UK borrowing, reducing transparency, and making it more difficult for the public to understand the nation's financial health. Rising borrowing costs and fiscal constraints. The government's fiscal policy is further strained by rising borrowing costs. UK government borrowing surged to $17.8 billion in the past month, exceeding expectations. Additionally, The yield on 10-year government bonds has risen, increasing the cost of servicing national debt. Economists warn that these factors could erode the fiscal headroom previously estimated at $9.9 billion, potentially reducing it to $5 billion. Higher bond yields, sluggish productivity growth, and declining labor supply exacerbate the situation, leaving the government with fewer options for maintaining fiscal stability. The impact on economic confidence, international confidence in the USA. UK's economic stability hinges on transparent and credible fiscal management. If global investors perceive the UK's financial reporting as misleading or opaque, it could undermine trust in government bonds, leading to higher borrowing costs, and a weaker currency. Unless the government acknowledges its full financial obligations, including Bank of England losses, PFI liabilities, and local government debts, the UK's creditworthiness could deteriorate. This would limit the government's ability to respond to economic crises and could lead to increased taxation or spending cuts. Policy implications and future outlook. Rachel Reeves has pledged to reduce debt as a share of national income by the end of this parliament, while refraining from borrowing for day-to-day expenses. However, achieving this goal will require significant spending restraints or revenue increases. The risk remains that further financial obfuscation could delay necessary fiscal corrections, compounding long-term economic instability. With an upcoming Bank of England decision on interest rates, Ms. Reeves faces increasing pressure to navigate a precarious economic landscape. The question remains, will the government take responsibility for its full financial burden, or will it continue to mask the problem with accounting tricks? Conclusion. The UK's financial situation is far more precarious than official figures suggest. By omitting critical liabilities from public debt calculations, the government risks misleading the public and international investors. As borrowing costs rise and fiscal headroom diminishes, the need for transparency and responsible debt management becomes more urgent than ever. If these issues remain unaddressed, the UK may find itself deeper in economic turmoil, with fewer options for recovery. So what do you guys think about this update? Let me know in the comment below. If you like my video, please press like button and subscribe for more. Hope I'll see you in next video.